Hey, Natsu here. Today I'm going to start a new what if. What if Deku was an Oni Slayer? Onis are a type of demon from Japan and China. But basically, um, they are or demons, spirits, and other things in those type of ways, basically. Most of them have special powers and other things like that. Oni Slayer is not something like a Dragon Slayer from Fairy Tail or Demon Slayer from Fairy Tail, or like the show Demon Slayer as well. It's not like those. Basically, an Oni Slayer is someone that trained to use magic, weapons, different martial arts, different ways of fighting. Basically, they can fight barehanded, with magic, with weapons. And precisely this type of Oni Slayer that I'm taking, basically what they do is, well, they're a type of Oni Slayer that hunts Oni, that basically all the Oni in that world. If you kill them, their soul leave, go back somewhere else, and kind of just reforms there. So those Slayer in particular has a type of magic to actually seal the body, well, the soul, basically with a type of magic in bottles and stuff like that, that they can then use those souls to enchant weapons. When they enchant a weapon with this soul, they fully destroy it. Basically, it's the only way, seal it in a weapon, and then basically they lose all consciousness. For low level ones, high level ones can still have their consciousness in the weapon that you enchanted, and those ones are basically still alive inside of it. The only way basically to fully kill one is to actually seal one in a weapon and break that weapon, or seal it in practically anything and break it, like not in the container they use to seal them, like the bottles or stuff like that, but really seal their soul in an item that they basically get tied to it, and if that is broken, their soul is broken and completely dies. It's basically the only way. So the way the Oni Slayers basically found to actually do it is to trap the souls and then kind of just use them, since most of the Onis basically give weapons special abilities, mostly tied or with the Oni itself, or depending on their strength. Deku will learn practically every type of magic used by the Oni Slayer that he is going to be under, simply because, well, the training that a normal Oni Slayer goes through in that world, well, in the world where that guy is, and to learn all of the skills he knows, basically takes around 5 years to learn everything, and Deku will be there for 7 years. So, Deku is born a normal child with no quirks. This makes him a perfect target for bullying. So, basically, everything in his life up until his 15th birthday. Like, literally, his 5th birthday is exactly the same. At his 5th birthday, though, what I'm doing is that him and some friends and some people in in their family are basically going for Izuku's birthday to a forest. Basically to do a party outdoor. Basically the place that they go to is literally made for that, for birthday in forest, where they get activities, stuff like that. And you get the point. So Inko basically took the place for that day, and they went there. And while being there, since she invited some people from Deku's school, basically for him to have some friends there, Bakugo and some other kids that bullied him were there. While the parents weren't watching, Bakugo and some of the other kids decided to bully Deku, which made him run in the forest to basically, hide, because he didn't want to stay there anymore. He didn't want to be with them. While running away, Deku fell in a hole, which was bringing him to the other world. Which I'm going to explain how all of those works, and basically many other things, in this part 0A. There's going to be 0B, and there's also going to be 0C. Reason for that many is actually because there's going to be a huge amount of things. And I'm really not joking. This is going to be long. So, so after basically him leaving, Enko and some other parents basically just realized that Deku wasn't there anymore. So they basically asked the other kids where he was, and some of them just said, "Oh, he went in the forest a while ago. Isn't he back already?" Prompting every adult to basically go looking, because a kid in a forest alone can be bad. They don't know the extent of it. So, yeah, they don't find him. And for the next 7 years, well, Deku's not going to be in that world. And truly 7 years, because the worlds are basically all connected. Yes, all of them have some different rules of physics and different things that happen, like in history and stuff like that, but most of them are normally a cycle of day and night, with only some minutes to hours to days of difference in the speed that the time goes. But to be precise, Deku's world and that world have the exact same amount of time that pass, at the same time. Just that one is nighttime, the other one is daytime. So Deku basically arrives there, nighttime, because they were in the middle of the day. Meaning that for him, basically he was, how it happened was that he fell, he closed his eyes because, he just fell, he wanted to protect himself. And when he opened back his eyes, everything was just black, which made him think that he hit his head and passed out for a while. He's just 5, but remember, we're talking about Deku. He is intelligent. So, Deku basically just thinks that he just has to stay there and that people are going to find him, since for all he knows, he just passed out for a while. In reality, it basically didn't truly pass out, he just wasn't in the same place. So Deku was basically just waiting there, not knowing what to do except waiting, because, well, that's what you're supposed to do until people come and find you. Problem was that he was starting to get hungry. He didn't know why it took that long, until he decided to go and try to see, well, in which direction he could have come from. When he got up and looked around, nothing actually seemed like it was where he came from. Nothing made sense in that way. So Deku basically started walking in a direction that he heard sound from, thinking that it was people basically looking for him, until he arrived where it was. What he saw, well, mostly what he heard near that place, was a scream. A horrible scream that he didn't know what made it, but he really didn't want to go there. The instinct of survival in a kid is a lot less intense than that of an adult. But even for his age, all of his instincts were telling him to run the hell away in the opposite direction, which he was kind of not able to do at first. Until he saw, well, someone literally being launched through some trees. The guy ended up right next to Deku, hitting a rock, looking up and seeing a kid. Which, how? This is practically impossible. He saw how the kid was scared, and basically just realized that, oh shit, he's in danger. So the guy basically just told Izuku, run! Well, mostly screamed it, until Deku looked back where the sound came from, well, where the man came from, because he was hearing some sound, until a giant monster emerged from the trees, basically pushing them over. Deku started running while the man just got back up and went straight on the offensive. The man took a sword. Basically, Deku was running away, but was still looking back. And he saw how the man did it. He took out a sword. A pretty big one at that. And basically went back on attacking the monster. What Deku saw was the man attacking the monster, and the monster just kind of losing an arm at first. Deku thought it was going to be good, because, oh, he's stopping it. Until the arm just kind of reattached itself. Making Deku a lot more scared, because, wait, if it regenerates, he cannot beat it. This Oni in particular, the reason he is able to heal is actually because he is an Oni that is pretty much controlling of a certain element. And the body Deku is seeing isn't actually its body, it's more like an armor around it, made of plants. Meaning that when the man cut the arm of it, well, he just had to regrow it. Or reattach it. Which, for the Oni, was pretty easy. So it looked as if he regenerated, but it was just control of his powers. The man knew that, so he wasn't scared. He was just trying to find the actual body of it. Or to be precise, where the soul was. Which the soul stays in the actual body of it. And this type in particular, the only reason why they're hard to kill is because the soul basically just moves around constantly without staying in a single place. Meaning that if cutting the arm would have basically mean that the arm was the thing that was moving, it would have been in there in that moment. But it wasn't. Meaning he had to keep looking. Basically, Deku kind of stopped running at some point and then started running again. Because when the arm was cut, he was sure that the man was winning. Until he saw the regeneration, and Deku basically started running again. The man knew that there was a kid nearby, so he had to basically not take any chances. So he was basically going further and further using it. Well, his power. At first he didn't want to basically destroy too much around him while facing him, but now that he knew there was a kid, he wasn't actually trying to hold back anymore to not break the forest. And so he basically waited for Deku to get far enough and just used a type of fire magic that basically acted as a firebomb. He put enough power to basically burn down, well, completely incinerate, to be more precise, around 20 meters around him. Deku was further than that by that point, so Deku was out of harm, and the man was perfectly fine since it was his own magic. The Oni, though, didn't have that much of a good time. Mostly because first, all of the plants were basically ashes, which meant that he couldn't, well, regrow his armor. Which made the man able to basically kill him quite easily. Deku didn't see any of that though, because, well, he was running. But Deku was pretty much now someone that the man wanted to know what was he doing here. So he killed the Oni, sealed the soul in a bottle, and basically went to look for Deku. Which didn't take that long, which will be explained in a second. For Deku, all he knew was that he was running for like 10 minutes, getting pretty far, and then the man just kind of appearing close to him, scaring him a whole lot. The man asked Deku what he was doing here, which Deku just explained that he was him and his, well, some people in his family and friends were basically having a party until he ran out in the woods because he was bullied. And that suddenly he just fell and got here. and it was night now. Which the man then asked him where he came from, what city, and other stuff about history, like special event in his world. Which Deku says that he comes from Japan, which the man kind of just looked as if he was doing math in his head, or looking for a name, which will also be explained in a bit. After that, Deku said that, basically explained some history, said the year he was in, and then talked about the quirk, which the man said, okay, yeah, I know where you're from. Which Deku then asked, well, shouldn't that be obvious? Which the man said, oh, not that much. Here we're in another world, you see? Basically, saying it cheerily, something that kind of looked as if he was trying to reassure Deku, but in reality it's more because the man's just like that. His personality is cheerful. Actually, the default emotion in him is default. So, unless something is extremely serious, and he needs to be serious, he basically acts like a goofball, which makes it kind of funny, but sometimes annoying. Deku will know the full extent of that. The man then asked why he was bullied, with Deku saying that he didn't have a quirk. Because just for now, Deku kind of didn't register yet that he wasn't in the same world, even though the man literally told him straight to his face, "You're in another world." All he was thinking was that the man was kind of joking, and that the man just didn't really go out of the woods that much. So when Deku told him that he didn't have a quirk, the man started taking a small interest in Deku. Something that seemed a bit weird. But Deku didn't really pay any mind to that, because, well, all he was thinking was, how did he find me that fast? And why does he want to know that much? Which he then asked Deku what he wanted to be when he grew up. Deku just kind of talking to not, well, because he didn't want the man to just grab him and leave like that, thinking that if he was stalling for time, people would find him. So he just kept talking. So Deku told him that he didn't have a quirk, his age, and kept talking like that, until he asked, "How did you find me that fast?" With the man looking at him and laughing a bit, and then saying, "I followed your potential. You have a huge amount of magic in you. I've even me, I don't have that much, and yet I'm practically 400 years old." With Deku looking at him strangely and saying, "What? 400? You don't look that old." With the man saying, "Thank you." And then he asked, "Wait, magic?" With the man explaining, well, deciding to explain to him. "I told you that you weren't in the same world, right?" With Deku saying, "Yeah." And then the man said, "Well, I'm going to explain why I said that, and what it truly means. But first, let's go back to my house." And basically grabbed him, put him on his shoulder, and just started running. And the man was fast. Deku was basically looking at the tree's path next to him, and it was as if he was in a car, which is pretty freaking fast. When they arrived at the man's house, about 40 minutes later, which is pretty long, he decided to explain to Deku about magic and this world. Well, and all of the worlds. And then, the way it started. The man asked Deku what he wanted to know about first, which Deku said that he wanted to know what he meant by other world. With the man telling Deku that, well, you see, kid, there's not only one world. You have your world, which is pretty much one of the, well, hardest one to go to for us. You see, in your world, only people born there with magic can actually use it. While in almost every other world, anyone who actually learns to use it can do it. In this world, anyone that has magic can use it. Your world is one of many. Each world has different history, different creatures, different stuff. Even just a super small change can be a different world. You, in particular, is from a world that not only magic is rare, but simply portals to get there are also rare. Actually, I've never even heard of someone actually getting here by accident, unless they knew where to go. Which Deku asked, "What do you mean by that?" Which the man then said, "You know, when I found you, I said that I would explain to you why I was able to find you from your potential, right? Well, this is why. Magic. In this world, well, no, in every world, there is magic. Some worlds have a lot of it, some others have only a super small amount of it. Your world is one of those that have almost none of it. So only small places have... Those places have a lot less portals than most. Yours in particular only has 4 that we actually know about that human can pass through. Onis can pass through many more. Actually, for portals that only Onis are able to use, there's upward of 400 just in Japan. Just to put it in perspective, compared to the 4 in the entire world for humans and other creatures like that. You passed from, well, the one for Japan, which is in the middle of a forest. So, just you explaining why you were in the forest basically tells me how you got here. It still impresses me that you just stumble upon it, but in any case, if, I explained that you had a lot of potential in magic, right? And this is why I'm surprised. Your world has the most limited amount of it that we've ever seen. With Jaco as weave, there's more of you, which the man then explained that it's actually kind of a job. Basically, think of it as being a hero, but for more than just humans. He tells him that there are Onis, which are kind of monsters, spirits, demons, and that they need to stop them. Well, not all of them, only some of them. Those that they need to stop are those that are evil, or that don't like to listen to rules. Those ones are called, well, we call them Onis or demons. Those that are actually good and listen to rules or just want to help, we call them good ones, instead of calling them demons or Onis. If we want to refer to all of them at once, we just call them Onis, but yeah. Basically, we're hunting the bad ones. Those that want to destroy, want to control places, or that go through to somewhere else just to make ravage. In your world, no hunters there, which made many Onis basically take that place as their home. Actually, the reason for what you call quirks is actually because of a small race of Oni at some point going there. They didn't actually do all that well. Without magic, those specific ones who actually needed to feed on it tried to feed on something else. The pure energy of your world that you call electricity. They tried to use that as a power source, but it kind of failed. In particular, the reason they wanted that is because they were a type of Oni that can control storm and storm and thunder. So they thought that your electricity would be able to actually feed them the same way as the magic they used. But it had a reverse effect, killing all of them. The reason for quirk is actually because of that. Normally, an Oni that dies their body dies, but their actual soul stays intact and tries to find a place where they can reform. To stop one, you basically have to seal it in something. But for them, they tried to feed on your source of energy. But because of how different it was and how they weren't able to absorb it, their soul were turned into pure electricity and sent through every place on your planet. The power of the Onis were starting to be separated and sent through, merging a bit with everything that was around, passing through every matter. When it was going through humans or animals, it started to give them powers, which is pretty much one of the reasons why your world is one of the rare ones that actually have powers that don't come from magic. Or at least that don't come directly from it. You, on the other hand, have pure magic running through you, and I don't know how you have that. Most people or absorb it from around them, or have a small amount that they produce on them by themselves. But if you were from that world, that means all you had was the capacity to create it. which means that in itself, you are pretty much an anomaly. The magic inside of you is what I was using to track you, as well as why, when you arrived, that Oni was going straight for you. You were an extremely good source of magic. If you're 5, that means you had all of that time to accumulate a huge amount of it. Which is probably why the Oni actually went straight for you. You looked like a buffet for him. Which kind of scared Deku. The man then told him not to worry. As long as they were here, he was out of danger. Which didn't really make Deku more happier for some reason. Or calm him down. Which the man asked why that was. Until Deku just said that, won't they come back to hunt him? With the man saying that no, not as long as he's here. Because this place is built on a special mine. Well, over a special mine. Crystals are in this place. And those crystals are emitting a type of, waves that hide magic completely. As long as he is close to this place, Onis won't actually sense him. Magic can still be used perfectly fine, and any type of magic can actually work. It just cannot be sensed. Which interested Deku a bit, but then the man said, so, do you want to know how I was able to actually hunt that thing? Which Deku, having seen him cut the hand, then it just kind of going back on and knowing that he killed it by this point, told him yes. So the man then told him that Onis have different elements, powers, and levels to them. Not level like a leveling system, more like ranks. Basically, over the time they age, and their body grows, absorbs more magic, and they become stronger. This one in particular, sorry about that, be right back. Sorry about that. So, where was I? Oh yeah. He was explaining why, how over time they grow, get stronger, bigger, faster, and have more power. And Deku asked him how do they do that? And how would he actually kill those that are getting too strong? Which the man said that just over time, they can grow stronger, but all of them have one thing in common. You look at the element they use, and use that to counter the one, and use an element that can counter it. Which means what you had to do was literally to have the elements counter any Oni, and you were able to hunt them. Then Deku asked if just having the element meant you would win, which the man said no. You had to train with it. Get better, stronger, and train a lot. As well as something else, which Deku asked what it was, and then the man explained that, Like he said, when you destroy the body of an Oni, the soul is still there and just goes to a safe place and regenerate the body. And Oni Slayers have to catch those. And he then explains that there is a type of magic that they use in tandem with objects like bottles, small jars, or stuff like that with a cap to basically seal the soul inside until they use it to basically seal it in a weapon or another object that would destroy their mind and infuse the power that they had from or their element or their power into the weapon or object. Deku got really interested and asked one more question that at first was kind of weird for the man until he remembered where Deku came from. He asked, would I be able to become a hero with that? Which the man took a while to answer simply because, well, in this world, it's not a hero that you become, you basically just become a hunter. Until he realized that Deku was talking about his own world. Which he told Deku that yes, he could. Prompting Deku to ask him, can you train me? With the man telling him, well, yes I can. But if I do that, you need to promise me one thing. With Deku asking, what is it? And the man telling him, you're going to have to hunt Onis. Okay, hope you like this one. This is part 0A. So in the next part, I'm basically going to explain exactly how the different worlds work, how magic works. Basically, what I said in this one was basically just him explaining it to Deku, not me explaining it directly to you. Next video I'm going to do is probably going to be I'm probably going to start it right after this one is uploaded, so you won't have to wait that long. But yeah, so hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. If you have any questions or anything to say, just put them in the comment section. If it's a question, I'm going to see if I can answer it. If it's just a talk, I can do that as well. And yeah, so I'm going to leave a link to my Discord in the description. Come and join us if you want to. It's pretty fun there. So yeah, Natsu out.